133. I'll repeat what we said last week. Amar Chaver, the rabbi says, "En anachnu sholalim mishum adam gemul ma'asav hatovim me'ezeu ma sheyeh." We, on the other hand, compared to other religions, we don't deprive any person of their destined reward, regardless of their nationality, their ethnicity, their religion. But we see the great goodness to the people, let me read the English here. At the same time, the ultimate good is reserved for the people of the chosen nation who are close to Hashem during their lifetimes. And after death, the degree of a person's closest to Hashem is assessed according to his level before death.
All right, before death, right?
Let's not read it as literally as that. Rather, what Rabbi Yonatan Halevy is saying is we say that a person is as close to Hashem as he was during his lifetime. You know, a person worked hard in this lifetime to be close to Hashem, they'll be close to Hashem in this life. If they didn't work hard to be close to Hashem in this lifetime, they will not be close to Hashem in the next life. Amar Kuzari, so the king responds, and this is new for this week. If that's the case, let's switch the situation around. Let's compare their status in this world to their status in the next world. Rafael, can I have a napkin, please? Thank you. Let's compare people's... Instead of assessing based on their spiritual success, let's assess the level of Jews in the world to come based on their current physically downtrodden status in the world today. So what's he trying to say? He's saying, listen, you're trying to tell me that you guys are close to Hashem because you're so close to Hashem in this world. He says, but how much could Hashem really love you if he puts you in holocausts and inquisitions and crusades and you're in exile still out of your country, nobody likes you, nobody wants you? You can't fool me that you're so close to Hashem. This therefore must be maybe the next world. I mean, how do you know that your physical state doesn't affect you in the next world also? Amar Chaver, the rabbi says, Ani roeh she'ata meganeh otanu bedalut u'miskenut. The rabbi said, I see that you disparage us because of our poverty and loneliness. Uvahem hayu mitparim gdolei ha'omot ha'eleh. He says, you're trying to tell me we must not be the chosen people. Hashem doesn't like us because we're so downtrodden. But it's those religions themselves. For example, the Christians, who take pride in the one who says, Mishika lechicha, haymani, hachen lo asmani, that if somebody strikes you on your right cheek, turn your left cheek to him. Umishu lokach talitcha, ten lo achalukcha, and if somebody takes your shirt, give him your robe. He takes your coat, give him your shirt. Yeah, give people what they want if they hurt you. That's going to be one of the few times you'll see the source, 178 on the bottom, quoting Matthew.
Ooh. Yeah, I quoted the New Testament.
V'giya hu v'chavarav alchim acharav. This individual and his colleagues and those who followed in his path were on page 134. Me'ot min hashneim, for hundreds of years. Min habuz v'yisurin v'hereg and inam niflim v'yiduim. The Christians also experienced extraordinary contempt and torture and killing for hundreds of years. V'hem hem ha'pe'el, but they were still proud of that. Christians were persecuted. Whenever the Christians read the New Testament, they talk about how the early Christians were persecuted by the Romans.
Yep.
They don't speak about those people that they're not special. They say it to the contrary. That's the most special person. The one who's persecuted for their Lord. The one who's persecuted for their faith. He says, so you're trying to put me down because the other religions are in a good place. He said, but it wasn't always that way. And they treat their history of abuse at the hands of other people with a lot of pride.
Yep.
V'chen ba'alei Torat Ishmael, and also those who follow Ishmael, v'chaverav and his friends, ad shegavru, until they prevailed. You should know that what he's saying is the Muslim religion came out as a takeover of power. There was a lot of force, not the Christians didn't force people to convert, but the Muslims took over their countries with their faith. U'v'anashim mehem hayu mitparim u'gadlim. He said, who did they praise in the Muslim religion? Not about the great kings that were so famous and wealthy in the Muslim world. They had beautiful chariots and they were very powerful and great armies. He said, even by the Muslims, those who were persecuted for their faith, those are considered the holiest people. Therefore, ערכנו מקורבת האלוהים יותר קרוב ממה שאם הייתה לנו גדולה בעולם הזה. This being the case, according to them, they shouldn't look at us and say, see, the Catholic Church, this was its stance for many years. Look at the Jewish people. If they were chosen, why would they look that way? Rabbi Yonatan Halevy is saying, but that's a hypocrisy in your own faith. You look very kindly upon those who are persecuted for Christianity. So why, when Jews are persecuted for Judaism, all of a sudden we lose our status of chosen people? Make up your mind. Are the downtrodden righteous or are the downtrodden not righteous? Choose. So according to them, our degree of closeness to Hashem is greater than if we achieved greatness in this world. I mean, we are the epitome of the martyrs for the faith of God. That's what we are. In our whole history, that's our story. In their faith, we're martyrdom and giving up your life and sacrifice. That's the most important thing in the world. So we won that contest. We got persecuted the most. So we should carry out our trophy that we won. See, the rabbi understood that the king was dragging him to a place where he's trying to say, if everything you've told me until today, the last 5-6 years that we've studied Kuzari, if everything you've said until today is true, why are you the most downtrodden faith on this earth? The rabbi knows he's going to drag him there. Exile is the one thing that the Jew always carried with a lot of shame, a lot of embarrassment. We're in exile. We know that. It's embarrassing. But that's the story. That's where we are. If what the Kuzari said above, then the reason for our exile should be that it's because God despises us and He doesn't want us anymore. But the rabbi has the counter. The rabbi pushes us away and he says, in general, the attitude of human beings are those who stand up for what is right, regardless of the numbers, regardless of what people do to them, regardless of what people say about them, those people are always considered heroes. This country was founded by people who are willing to stand up to what we consider an oppressive British occupation of this land. And so we stood up and we fought that war and we won. That's how every story happens of a hero. There's one person, 2 people, 10 people, 1,000 people that are holding on to values. They could have easily said, forget it, we'll be British. Forget it, we don't care. They got up and decided to make something out of themselves. And every religion is the same way. For most people, those people who suffered in order to maintain their integrity and their values, those are role models. Those are people you should look up to. Look at what that person went through to still be such a good person, to still be such an accepting person. The Christians talk a lot about the time where Christians were chased and Christians were hunted down and Christians were sold by the head to the Romans, and they talk, this is part of their faith. The Muslims, the same thing. The Muslims always talk about how they're persecuted and how they'll stand up for what's right regardless of what the world's going to tell them. Compare that to, and maybe take out this generation. It could be that this generation is shaking up what is true and what is not. Very rarely do you find historical figures who we celebrate the fact that they were successful with no hard work and no personal sacrifice. It's a very rare thing to find in history. You even find among the billionaires of the world, the millionaires of the world, whoever the world idolizes, most of them worked really hard to get to that place. Steve Jobs. Apple. How many books have been written about Steve Jobs? There's something inspirational about that story. Bill Gates. Something inspirational about that story. People are blown away. They're obsessed about their wealth. Somebody who's a millionaire, the son of a millionaire, the grandson of a millionaire, doesn't get as much credit for being a millionaire as somebody who worked out of... You find somebody who grew up in a neighborhood where there was no... He could have been a gang member. He came out a neurosurgeon. That person is celebrated because despite the hardships, look where he came. The whole world learns on that. That's the way the world works. The Jewish people, we're still that person that we're still working hard. We're still suffering a lot. We're still not sure about what tomorrow is going to look like for us, what today is going to look like for us, but we do it anyways. No one's going to stop us from being Jewish. And in Jewish theology, there's a value to being persecuted. It says in Kehillat is Ecclesiastes, I think, 3:15. Ve'Elohim yivakesh et nirdaf. That Hashem desires he who is persecuted. We have been closer to Hashem because of our exile than anything else. And it doesn't mean that because we suffer we're close to Hashem. Rather, what does it mean? There's no ideal in Judaism to suffer. You don't have to be tortured and oppressed. And we're not looking forward to that. Never is that a value. There is no martyrdom that we're so excited about in Judaism. So what makes us close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? It's the fact that Hashem still cares about us. You see, if Hashem didn't care about us, He would just leave us alone. It's like the famous story one guy said, why do Jews suffer so much? Because we're the chosen people. Well, couldn't God choose somebody else for a few months? Couldn't God choose another religion for a year or two? Why does it always have to be us? To the contrary, if it was that we sinned in the Beit HaMikdash and we got our temple destroyed, and then Hashem says, forget it, it's okay, nothing would happen to the Jewish people. What it tells you is that whole system of reward and consequence, it doesn't exist anymore. Hashem has said, the Jews, I don't care about them anymore. They can do whatever they want. The fact that our actions bring us directly and indirectly into an exile, that we suffer because of things that we did thousands of years ago, that shows us that Hashem still has a consequence system set up for us. And if that's true, in a strange way, what that tells us is that there's still someone there who's looking over us. It's kind of like, there's a kid who's a drug addict on the side of the road, and nobody ever comes to find him, nobody cares about him, he becomes the greatest drug dealer on the road eventually, and then he dies from an overdose somewhere. That kid never had somebody come looking out for him in the night. She's like, how could a drug dealer be so wealthy? I don't know, the drug dealer, it has nothing to do with the fact that he's a good person or not. But there's that drug dealer on the side of the road. His parents are always trying to pick him up in their minivan and bring him home. They're always trying to drag him to a rehab center, and he goes in, and he goes out, and he goes in. She said, look at this person. He never made it big. He's always in and out of rehab centers. Just because he's in and out of rehab centers doesn't mean he's not a great person. In fact, what it tells you, he still has parents that are caring about him, that are looking for him, that haven't given up on him. We are the Jewish people that Hashem hasn't given up on. Because, it might be ironic, but through our suffering, it is obvious that Hashem still cares about us. If Hashem didn't care about us, so we could already be living like some European nation, having a good time, having our own country. But the fact that we still go through hardship, this is Hashem still cares. Hashem is still around. As it says in Mishlei, in Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 12. Ki et asher yehav Adonai yochiach. Whoever Hashem loves, He will rebuke. U'cha'av et ben yirtzeh, and He will love him like a father loves his child. If my child were, God forbid, to run to the street, I grab him and scream at him, don't you ever go back into the street again. Cry, you hate me, you don't care about me. Yeah, but at the end of the day, the reason I'm screaming at you is because I care about you. Yeah. See, if someone's child, God forbid, ran to the street, let him get hit by a car. God forbid. What does that person tell you? I don't care about him. He's not my kid anymore. Yeah, let him do whatever he wants. If we're in a situation in this world where we could do whatever we want and get away with those consequences, without any consequences, that tells you that Hashem doesn't care about us anymore. It's the fact that Hashem sometimes pulls us out of the street and screams at us. We realize, we still have a parent out there that is looking over us. This is the answer that Rabbi Yonatan Halevy answers back the king, and that's something that's a kind of a curveball. The world is not used to thinking that way. The world is not used to thinking that maybe suffering is a sign of being chosen. The world's not used to that. Amal Kuzari. The king retorts back. Kenu, that would be true. On page 134. Ilu hayta kniatchem beratzon. If only your submission, your lowly state would be your own choosing. But you were forced into this situation. But in your case it was forced upon you, and were you given the opportunity, you would kill your enemies. If the Jews could have successfully revolted in the Holocaust, they would have. They just couldn't. They were crushed. And therefore, don't tell me that you accept your exile because this is your closeness to God. If you had a say in the matter, you would choose to opt out of it. Says the king, what kind of good response is that? That your exile is good for you? If it was good for you, you wouldn't pray all the time to get out of it. It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a good question. The Kuzari, the rabbi, is going to say something very, very hard. We have to say it anyways, though, so we're going to say it. Amar v'chaver. By the way, the king's whole point is, if the Jewish people are really here because exile is good, or was meant to purify them so they could go back to the land of Israel, so they go back and have their own country, so they would have done it already. They would have submitted to Hashem, they would have gone through their purification process, and they would have left. The fact that you're still here and the Jews don't care, and the Jews, he says, it doesn't seem like the Jews are taking this exile so seriously. It doesn't seem like they've sat here and said, you know what, the reason we're here is because we didn't serve Hashem properly, is because now we all have to start doing things the way Hashem wants us to have our life. You don't see that that's the attitude of the Jews on the street. The Jews on the street, they don't think this is an exile. They're even having a great time here. Amar Chavel, the rabbi says, Matzata makom cherpati melech Kuzari. You have discovered my shame, king of Kazan. Kenu, it wouldn't be true. Ilu hayu rubeinu mekabel mehadalut kni'a leElohim u'ba'avur torato. If most of us would have accepted our loneliness with subservience to Hashem and His Torah, lo haya menichenu ha'inyan Elohi kol hazman ha'aruch hazeh, divinity would never have left us for this long. If we would just give in to this exile, we wouldn't be here so long. אבל המעט ממנו על הדעת הזאת. Nevertheless, instead only a minority of us have succeeded in doing this. ויש שכר לרוב. Nevertheless, even the majority receive their reward. For מפני שהוא נושא עול הגלות בין הכרח ורצון. Because he suffers in exile, regardless of whether he chooses it or not. כאילו היה רוצה היה חבר לנוגס אותו. This is an important thing to know. If the Jew really didn't care about his exile, he would have converted a long time ago to Christianity. He would have become a Muslim a long time ago. Because I remember, to convert, all it takes is to say a word, to get sprinkled with some water, to say Allahu Akbar, whatever you need to say, and you're Jewish, you're a Muslim, you're Christian, whatever you are. He says, but the fact that the Jewish people chose not to do that, well, you don't think it could have happened? You hear already that the world is getting involved, that Christians are going to make crusade. So I'm going to go to my local church, I'm signing up. Listen, I want to be your friend. I don't want to be Jewish. What do I need the Jewish people for? You're going to murder me tomorrow? I'm signing up. Where do I put my name down? Social Security? What do you need from me? You know how many people could have done that? The fact that Jews didn't do that. We didn't do that. We didn't opt out for the easy path. Even the majority of the Jews who were not observant, they also didn't give up their faith. Don't think for 1 minute that the righteous judge, Hashem, doesn't see that. Doesn't see that a Jew who's not so affiliated, but he is certain things, he will never give up his Judaism now. For all those rabbis that run around the world and say how bad the Jewish people are, they don't do Shabbat, they don't do kosher, it's true, it's a problem. But they're wrong. They're wrong in saying that Hashem is going to judge all these people evil. How does he know? How do you know? You work for Hashem. The bottom line is that when the Jewish people are at the very least, they're saying, I'm not willing to give up my Jewish identity. There are certain things I will not do. It's not going to happen. That's an incredible thing. Hashem doesn't forget that. If we were to endure this exile in our lowliness for the sake of Hashem, we would be the pride of the generation that will arise with the coming of the Mashiach. And we would hasten the salvation for which we so yearn. It's pretty heavy duty stuff, this. If we would accept this galut, it would be good for us. The rabbi agrees with the king. The rabbi says, you're right, the majority of the Jewish people don't observe, so to speak, the exile properly. But the fact is that they still opt in to be Jewish, and therefore they're still The minority of us take care of the majority. I just want to point out that from the time of Rabbi Yonatan Halevy, things have changed a little bit. Like, for example, in our generation, I don't think your average Jew feels that he is suffering in exile. And even he who feels that he's suffering in exile, it's kind of like he's imagined his suffering in order to remember that he's in exile. It's important that in this comfort that we have, not to forget that we were put here to calculate, to figure out our souls, what is our destiny, what is our purpose. Even if it's not so terrible, Baruch Hashem, they're not massacring Jews on the streets. It doesn't exempt us from the thought process that we have to be going through every day of exile, which is, what am I doing here? Why am I not going home? What is it that needs to be done? And in fact, the Jewish people, we used our exile quite well, I'll tell you. Every country that we went through in our exile, we touched, we affected, we changed. Let me tell you, the reason Spain is offering Jewish passports back to the Jews, it's probably not because Spain overnight became a Jewish-loving country.
I think I figured out why they're doing it.
They probably want Jewish business back.
Yeah.
Probably. Is that what you think?
For economic reasons.
Good.
Their birth rate is 1.3, which is not enough to replace as people die off.
Well,
So they want to bring in people.
yeah, see, these countries,
To
every
keep
time
their
they
economy
expel
going.
the Jews, the next thing you see is the country falls to pieces. It's not because, let's not get all protocols of the elders of Zion over here, but the golden era of Spain, it ended when the Jews left. What kind of suicidal mission was that? When the king of Morocco heard that Hitler, was willing to come in and take all the Jews from Morocco, he didn't let. Why didn't you let? Do you think he loves the Jews? The king was nice to the Jews. Loves the Jews? Let's not exaggerate. He knew it was going to be the end of his country. The end of his country is going to happen. If you get rid of my Jews, then everything's gone. Everywhere that we went, from our Nobel Prizes, from inventing things, from medicine, from for ethics and morals and philosophy and whatever it is that we've done,
Literature, everything.
we have laid our fingerprints are on everything in this world. And it's true, you should know. Yesterday there was an anti-Semitic flyer going around universities. The Jews, we're the 1%, we're occupying the world, we're like real KGB propaganda stuff came out in English. They have to free the white race from the Jews. It was like a whole interesting, there's a little crazy anti-Semites. Nothing you can do about it. But they're not wrong. We have disproportionately contributed to the world's goodness. We don't have to be embarrassed about it. Jews are always trying to cover up. No, we're not so great. We're great. We're the greatest nation on earth. I'm not afraid to tell you that. It doesn't mean we're the only nation in the world. It doesn't mean we're the superior race. We don't use such words. We are not embarrassed that everywhere that we've gone, we've tried to be model citizens. We've tried to take care of that country. Jews have always been involved in the government. Why? They're involved in the government because they want to take over the government. You haven't found in 2,000 years of exile a Jewish king in a non-Jewish country. We got involved because we were law-abiding citizens. We were always loyal to the king, even in the Megillat Esther. You think Achashverosh in one day became an anti-Semite? Mordechai still saved his life. Because Mordechai, as a citizen of Persia, felt that he had an obligation to save the king's life. That's always how we were. So in fact, there's one of the early Sephardic commentaries. He writes that the reason why Paro, coming up in the story of Pesach, it says there was a new king who didn't remember Yosef. And he was the one who persecuted the Jewish people. This commentary says the Jews were always loyal to the Pharaoh, always. Paro was their leader, politically. And it was some kind of, what do they call it, a coup, where they overthrow the Pharaoh.
Yeah.
They overthrew him. There's a new Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh was worried that the Jews are still loyal to the real Pharaoh. And so he decided to persecute them. See, Jews have always had the status that we're loyal to our government, that we're. And if it's not that way, that's a problem. But for us, we are not embarrassed to tell you that in exile, no matter where we were, we've tried to make the most of it. They didn't let us be study in universities, so we became businessmen. They didn't let us do business, so we went to study in universities. They didn't let us do this, so we invented things. So we philosophized. Whatever it is that they let us do, we did. It wasn't always, they didn't always let us. You know, Albert Einstein once said that he's in a lose-lose situation. If he fails, they're going to say he's a Jew. And if he wins, they're going to say he's a German. He said nothing he can ever do to come out a Jew, a Jewish German in a positive light. He knew that, and that was well before a Holocaust. It's our relationship with the world. And perhaps it's our job as the Jewish people to remember we didn't give up, ever. Not on the Inquisition, not on the Holocaust, not on the Crusades. Never did we give up on our Judaism. The fact that you have a generation today of Jews that are so eager to throw away their Jewish values when they're not being persecuted. Nobody's going to kill you on a college campus because you're Jewish. Nobody's going to hurt you in a bar because you're not Jewish. So you live your life, but why are you so afraid to be Jewish? And there's so many Jews, they don't want to tell you that they're Jewish. That's really a crazy thing. This is a generation that has no challenges, or very little, very few. And they still, the first thing they want to get rid of is being Jewish. Now we as a Jewish people have to, why are they running away from us? That's a good question to ask. But also for them. You can imagine I told you, I'll end up with a story that I once heard from a rabbi. There's a whole other section here you should know about conversion and about, I just feel that it's a long topic and I don't want to start it tonight if I'm not going to be able to finish it tonight. Rabbi Yonatan Halevy makes some claims about converts and conversions, and I want to be able to deal with it properly. They said there's once a friend, let's give them names, Moshe and Yaakov. So Moshe calls up his friend Yaakov and says, listen, I'm a stockbroker, and I'll tell you, I found a stock, I believe that tomorrow it's going to double in price. He says, what do you want from me? He says, $10. I don't want to give you $10. I don't know, I'm not going to lose my $10. He says, watch. Tomorrow I'll call you up, you'll see it became 20. So they called him in the morning and said, I looked at the newspaper, that stock became 20. He said, no, and tomorrow it's going to double again. He said, but what? But what do you mean it's going to double again? He said, just trust me, give me now $20, I'll invest for you. He said, nah, $20 now, I might lose 20. Yes, I don't want to lose 10, 20. This happened. A few years later, Yaakov calls up Moshe and says, listen, I regret it so much, you don't even know. I opened up the newspaper today, and that stock is worth $17.3 million. It's unbelievable. So if I would have just given you $10. So Moshe says, oh dear Yaakov, I've been waiting for you for so long to call me up. Come to my house tomorrow. I have something to show you. Comes to his house, and Moshe writes him out a check for $17.3 million. Says, what? Why are you giving me your money? I'm not giving you your money. He said, I already invested the first $10 for you when I called you the first time. I knew you wouldn't do it. I knew you were a cheapskate. Yes, I invested the 10, and then it became 20. So I bought one envelope portfolio for me, then one for you. He said, I'm just giving you what's yours. You come to a Jewish kid today and you tell him, listen, I'm not asking you to invest anything. You don't even have to do the Inquisition. We're done. You don't have to go through pogroms. We're over. I'm not even asking you to go sign up for a concentration camp. I'm telling you, right now, just come home. Do Shabbat dinner. What's going to hurt you? What can it hurt to come to a synagogue once a week in your life? What is it going to hurt you for 5 minutes in the morning you put on tefillin? I'm telling you, we've already invested the $10 for you. The stock today is worth $17.3 million. All I'm asking for you is to take the check and deposit it into your bank account. That's all I'm asking. The generations before, they had to work hard. Today, they don't have to do anything. And I'm not taking away the struggles that I'm sure every person deals with on a personal level. But there's what to be said that it's almost ironic that in the toughest of times the Jews held on tight. And when it gets too lax and too easy, we kind of run away. But I believe it's a misguided perspective, and we can change that by showing them that there's a reason to hold on. It's not just craziness, and it's not fanaticism, and it doesn't take over your life. There's something good here. B'ezrat Hashem, I'm sure that we can bring about that ultimate redemption. If we hold on to what is ours, we commit ourselves to what is ours, and to make sure we can't forget about the next generation, other people, other children. A rabbi said that anybody who takes someone else's child and they teach them Torah, it's as if they raised them, they gave birth to them. Sometimes you see people, they didn't have a chance to study any Torah, so you are their only link to Torah. So adopt them, in a spiritual way, adopt them. You adopt them, so now you have more children than just the ones that you have. B'ezrat Hashem should guide us on that right path. And we should know what to do with our exile so we can leave our exile, because the Jews have already begun leaving this exile for what's coming up to be 69 years, and it's time to jump on that bandwagon.